right, I want to be honest here. Ville, what are the ages of your kids?
I think they're 1, 3, and 5.
Do you have a lot of silence at home?
No, not a lot of no.
Well, I am here in Prague, and I am already... Hey, there he is. Look at that. Ville's here. Great. I'm already doubting whether I should be talking about Benedict's rule because I hit the section on obedience. And I don't know what I'm going to tell you guys about that. But today we're going to be talking about silence because we did some of that in our retreat together. And there's a documentary on it, if you don't know. So we'll talk more about that. One of the stops, well, that's not going to work. Anyway, one of the stops for today is the Abbey. So one of the stops here in Prague is this Abbey monastery. There, the Strahov Monastery. I'm here with actually 2 brewers. And I think there might be some beer at 10 in the morning or something like that. We'll see. It's what you do when you're with brewers. Get it in line there.
Yeah.
All right.
Got the tree there in the background.
Ville, do you remember the retreat, what it was like to put people in silent mornings? Do you remember your first silent morning?
Well, I wasn't silent because I was singing to people.
You were singing to people, that's right. Yeah, Ville did some liturgy for us.
Morning chanting.
Yeah.
But everybody else was silent. It was quite neat, just waking up in that castle with no noise.
Yeah.
Just the sounds of nature around, out in the woods and in the hills.
You know what's cool? We met everybody before, so we had our conversations. But then that next morning, you wake up and you don't have that kind of, it's not awkward, but that just, how are you doing? How did you sleep? The small talk was gone.
Hello.
Hello.
We'll go out here. It's private garden.
Okay.
All right, let's go right here. It's a little windy. I hope we can hear that. So, as I was saying, you wake up, silent, you're not talking to anybody, and what it reminds me of now reading Benedict's rule is this prohibition that he has here. There's a section on silence. It is chapter 6, I think? Yeah, chapter 6. And he writes in here, so funny now reading this, we always condemn and ban all small talk and jokes. No disciple shall speak such things.
And we really held on to that.
We did hold on to
There was no jokes.
Yeah.
Yes, right?
I mean, he writes this as sort of a all-time, like the monastery should be a very solemn place all the time.
Yeah.
I don't agree. But I think in those mornings, it was really helpful to not have to present an identity to people, try to make people laugh, cheerful, and all of that. It was really nice.
Well, I think there's kind of a positive nakedness. Mm-hmm. Like you can't use your words to clothe yourself and work with, your perception of how people perceive you and manipulating that through words.
Yeah.
You got to have to kind of let it go, and that's kind of an act of trust, right?
Yeah.
You're trusting the community that, okay, if I don't present my best self and I'm just silent, they're still going to love me.
Yeah.
Like I'm still going to be part of this community, and the fact that I'm not putting out my best view of myself and slightly adjusting what people perceive.
Yep.
then you can still rest in the relationship and trust the community to carry you in that silence.
Yeah. I think we have to have times of not managing our identity and relationships through words. And that doesn't mean that you don't just do that in retreat centers. You have to find ways of doing that in all of life, with your family, with the people that you live with your friends, to just have times, those times of riding in a car just in silence, where you just sort of sit and you're just there, getting to that point. That's really important.
But there's a restfulness in a relationship where you don't have to keep up appearances, where you don't have to continually provide some sort of entertainment or education or insight, or because that's all kind of presenting yourself as an interesting person who's worthwhile to pay attention to.
Right.
And when you can let that go, and you find yourself in there's a sweetness to that silence, where you're resting. You're just being.
Yeah. And I think that's the important part of the stability side, which I was talking about in the last video. You're with people long enough, you stay with them long enough that you can have those times of silence, and you need those times of silence in order to sustain a long-term relationship. You can't constantly be talking your way through things. You have to just find ways of being together.
It's going to be nice in the summertime.
This is the garden we got kicked out of here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
For you, cheers.
How's the beer?
It's well accompanied with silence.
I see. What can you confirm what time it is?
10:25.
10:25.
Yeah. So it's already lunch.
All right, I want to be honest here. Ville, what are the ages of your kids?
I think they're 1, 3, and 5.
Do you have a lot of silence at home?
No.
No.
No. No. Not a lot of no. Nowhere.
So there is a real life aspect to silence that we have to acknowledge.
Yeah.
But you had a question for people to think about. What was that?
When was the last time you really experienced silence?
Yeah. Just in a room, perhaps your own room. You're there. Nobody's talking. Nothing's playing in the background. When was the last time that you had that and you weren't sleeping?
Observe whether or not you are listening when you are listening.
Yeah, it's a lot of times we just have something going on. We think we're listening to music, but we're not. We actually just have music on. And so the sounds aren't actually penetrating into our ears, into our minds, into our souls. We're not actually listening. But there are also group settings where you can have silence together, and I have no idea where you are and what situation you are, but there are churches and church services which have times of silence. Now maybe you have a church that does have this time of silence, and this time just pay more attention to that when you're in that time. What role does it play in that service, and what role does it play in your life? But if you don't have that in your church, then I encourage you to just try out a church that has some silence. I mean, you can go to a Quaker church and you might sit in silence the entire time. Could be good. If you know a good Quaker church around, then try that. But other places, or if you are a pastor and you're in charge of the service, try doing that. What would you suggest? Ville is a pastor, so what would you suggest for a first-time service? What would you?
Well, if you have readings, then if you have several readings, instead of filling the pause between the readings with anything, just give a bit of a lengthier time of silence so that you're both reflecting on what you just heard and preparing to receive the word that's coming.
Well, give me a sense of how much silence you have in a day. I don't know. Quantize it somehow. How many minutes of your day are actually silent? Ville, how many minutes?
Earplugs. Earplugs and an understanding partner is also a really good combo. You just pop them in your ear and you go into a room, you close the door, and you just breathe.
Yeah.
So that's not very little silence naturally. So the silence that is there is usually created.
Well, check out the trailer for the documentary Alone Together. You'll find it at sanctus.institute/alone together. Watch that. Sign up for the Doc and Retreat newsletter, which is the way that you will find out about the next Sanctus gathering, retreat style gathering that we do. Hopefully this year we'll do it. We haven't quite said yes to it, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
Close.
Okay. Well, I will see you next time. Subscribe to this, whatever, all that stuff. Bye. Yeah, great, thanks.
I'm helping out.
Yes.